Right, so hello, I'm here today with my friend Cy Booth, and 10 years ago
Phew, is it that long?
we met, and yeah, so this is hopefully to just have a bit of a chat about that 10 years and from the advice we've had over the years or the thoughts that have changed, because we had our certain beliefs when we met, didn't we?
I was extremely sceptical, still am. I was very much, we can prove this scientifically,
Yeah,
because I was so much of, we really can prove this scientifically. It's something that we can do, and we can show evidence, and we can gather evidence, because there's enough equipment out there that we can look at, and surely we can capture something. And I was very much into, yeah, we can do it if it's there,
yeah,
or we can prove it's fake.
yeah, so sceptical.
Yeah.
What got you into it then?
All my life, really. It's a little bit bizarre. I grew up, I've got to sound like, in those days,
Oh yeah.
but I grew up, two brothers, mum and dad. My dad had his own pop factory that was right next door to his house,
Yeah.
and he used to make bottles of pop, orange aid, strawberry aid, you know. He also used to deliver beers, wines, spirits, soft drinks to pubs, clubs, shops, you name it. That's what he did. That was his job. He owned the factory. It was his own business. But he bought the factory and the house of somebody he worked with when he was younger, and he'd come back from the Korean War and all this, that, and the other. And they didn't have initially a lot of money, so we had an outside toilet. We had, you can remember going out and it cold and it was cold, out there. So but when we got an indoor loo built, it was like luxury. But the house itself was odd.
Okay.
And I can remember it just feeling odd. Even as a young kid, I shared a bedroom with a brother, and the bedroom that we shared was in the attic, and it was cold all the time, cold. 'Cause we didn't have modern insulation or modern heating like you have now. I feel like I'm 70, I'm only 52. But even then, I was scared to go to bed. We heard, or I heard footsteps. Things would move around on a big bedroom, because it was the full size of the house. So we'd have, there was a table there with sort of pens and stuff, and they'd move around. And I can remember distinctly waking up one night and hearing footsteps come across the floor. And I'd made a mobile, thinking, oh great, I must be about 7 or something like that.
Young.
And this mobile moved, and I was petrified. And I'd go and sort of set my mum and dad, and they'd be like, oh, don't be daft, there's no there.
Yeah.
Is your brother seen? No, no. And now, when I talk to my mum, she was like, yeah, it was haunted, wasn't it? So but as a kid, she was like, yeah. And she'd say, like, the factory were haunted by Edna and this, that, and the other who used to work there. And she said, we used to see Edna all the time. And if you didn't stack the crates properly, they'd rock. Because Edna used to play out and say, look how loose these will be if you don't stack them properly.
Yeah.
And if you did, if you put one wrong box on top of another, you'd walk past them for no reason at all, these. As if to say, get this unstacked and stack it back up again. So from a young age, I was experiencing stuff, I suppose. Quite lucky, we lived in woods, near some woods, so we were always playing out and things like that. But the house itself and the factory were weird. There was a specific place in the factory that I was absolutely petrified of. The factory, I don't know if you remember these sort of places, but it ran off, all the machinery in the factory ran off one big electric motor. And it had a big pole that went right down the middle of the building, and there were leather belts that run all the machinery off it. and one belt went upstairs into the eaves of the building because it was 2 floors, but the second floor were very much like an attic, like you could see the roof coming in, and you went through one room into another room, which my dad, we called it the syrup room, because he had all his formulas for his pop and everything in there. A bit like a Willy Wonka's chocolate factory
like
type.
Soda Stream.
But on like a huge scale, like, you know.
Yeah.
But there were a machine that ran in there and it came off and this belt came through the floor, and I was absolutely, even now, thinking about it, I feel really uneasy about it.
About what?
That area, that
area.
specific area. I can remember having dreams where I'm almost being dragged towards that area.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go, but I go. And, you know, if I were ever sent up there for I'd be really quick and come down, because I just didn't like it. There was some. I mean, it's been demolished now, and there's houses built on the side.
Right.
So I'd like to see if they were having any experience in the houses that are there. But that was sort of got me thinking about stuff and the experience that I saw. Perhaps I wasn't as sceptical as I thought I was, and I wanted to prove to myself that I wasn't just making things up and being a wimp and stuff. And then going back to sort of a bit later in life, when I was probably the early 80s, I was still at school, or just towards the end of leaving school. There were a group of us who were just interested in stuff like that, because there'd been a few stories in Keith News about UFOs and ghosts and stuff like that. So we'd go out and just something to do and have a look.
Yeah.
You know, and have a bit of a poke around, and we got to I bought myself a 35mm camera, which were quite swish in those days.
Yeah, so you went that far.
And one of the lads would always bring a tape recorder with him, and we'd just sit and ask out and talk and things like that. But we do it in places like Lund Park and bizarre places, or up on the moors or wherever. Because there were a report of a guy seeing seen a ghost around this lamp post somewhere. A really bizarre story on by Lund Park. So we staked that out for a few days once, just to see if we could get out. So I suppose I got into that a little bit then. So we were trying to get evidence even back then. Yeah. And then various things happened, like girls and kids. Sure. And then, you know, I got into bands a bit and stuff like that. And then I was just sort of looking for something to do, because when I first got into it, there was none of this Most Haunted or, you know, 40 on TV, or there was nothing like that on telly. We're all, you know, no programmes like that. And then this Most Haunted came, and I thought, this is quite interesting. And it was sort of, well, perhaps I should go back down that avenue and get some equipment and go out and look in and see if we could do that. And it round about that time that sort of we got together, which was probably about 10 years ago.
You had a bit of a head start on me, because I discovered you after going on my first ghost hunt page, and I just happened to Google in the area, and you were like, Haworth. I was like, wow, that's so I reached out to you pretty easily.
Yeah, we've done a few bits and bats. I've met a couple of the guys who were probably not as sceptic as I was, and were more keen to sort of orbs and this, that and other, and didn't float my boat, you know. And then you was the one that suggested things like Ouija boards, and I was like, well, I'm not sure about that. And it was like, well, you know, then I thought, well, why aren't I sure about it? And okay, if it is faked, well, let's find out if it's faked. So that, well, the only way to find out if it's faked is to have a go. Yeah. And I think that's what sort of broke my... And they were like, actually, this isn't faked.
Yeah, there was a big question mark of, this could be something else.
And there could be something in this. And that sort of got me a little bit.
I remember the early days, whenever the glass would move, we'd instantly try and make it harder. Yeah. It's like, well, what if we hardly touch it? Yeah. What if we put our fingernails on? It was always put a a
Try
problem.
and make it harder.
Yeah.
Try and make it more difficult.
Make it less us
Yeah.
and more them.
And yeah, and I think we've got to get past that. I mean, our one who go out and look for loads of equipment. We've got to buy this, got to buy that. This might capture something, that might capture something. You know, ghost grids, that's a good idea.
Ghost grids, yeah.
We'll do that, and we'll do this, and we'll do other. And I know why I was doing it and where I was coming from, because I wanted to gather good evidence. But now looking back on it, even if I'd got evidence, people would have just said, "Oh, it's faked," anyway. And it isn't. You have to be there, and it is got to be inevitably got to be that. And people will either believe you or they won't believe you. And I've sort of gone past that now. And I think the best things to have is a camera, voice recorder, having a K2 meter, you know, that sort of stuff. Keep it simple, keep it easily manageable. So you're not juggling loads of different things.
Yeah.
Because how can you keep your eye on 16 different bits of equipment all at once? And I think that has got to be the way. And if you don't want to play with K2, well, let's try something else. Not leave, you know. And I think it is a case of doing it. I think it'd be great to if you had loads of equipment, set it all up in a room and leave cameras running and shut the doors and say, there you have, there's a playroom for you. Have a go in there.
Yeah.
See if there's what you can do. I think that might be a way forward and have it. Then it's, you know, completely untouched.
Yeah, that is true actually.
And that's, you know, one way to. But I think the experience thing it is an experience, and you have to experience it. And no matter how many videos you make, no matter, you know, somebody will always say, "Oh, it's faked." Regardless, and I think a lot of that's down to all the TV shows that are faked, and they have a lot bigger budgets, and you know, people.
Why do you say they're fake though? Why aren't they just like us and it looks fake?
Because it happens too much on cue a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And it's they're there. They can't afford to rent this place for 16 days just to get. You know, and it's almost as soon as they go into somewhere, they're getting, and it's like, yeah, all right. And then you start noticing stuff, like you'll see someone go past the door and they'll go out with camera and automatically look the other way before they look. And there's no there, look, and it's like, and it's just getting a little bit too, you know. There's some interesting stuff out there. Taps, I think, are fairly interesting. I quite like some of the stuff that they do. Bringing cadaver dogs in, doing stuff like that. I think is quite good.
Yeah.
They're not jumping at everything. They don't believe in orbs.
We used to also say that they weren't the star of the show.
No.
They were like not interested in that. They want the ghosts.
Exactly. But you know, I think Jason Hawes put on Facebook the other day the best way to defeat orbs, and he put a picture of a bottle of Pledge.
Yeah.
And you know, it's stuff like that. You've got to have that sort of mindset. So I think them, and there are a couple of others, Clinge brothers, I believe, who did Ghost Lab, that I thought were very good.
I forgot about that.
But I think other than that, they're there to make an entertainment show, and they might have originally set out to do it with all the best will and faith at the end of the day. But if you're going to get a glass going, it's not great TV, is it? You know, and it ain't great TV. So I do think a lot of it is fake. I'm sure that there's some genuine stuff in there as well, but I think there's a lot of fakery that goes in, and it doesn't do what we do a lot of good.
Yeah. So what would you say? I mean, that's all about proving to other people, but what is the evidence that you've seen that's changed your mind?
I think it's when you get unequivocal evidence from the board, like proper names that you can then go back and research, place names, even street names, names of people. We've had bomber flight numbers and things like that we've gone back and looked at, you know, when we've been getting stuff through the board, people saying, "No, I were a Spitfire, not a Spitfire, a Hurricane pilot, and I did accompanying bombers so far, and then I had to turn around and, where's my friend? Where's my friend? And we got, which flight group we were in and things like that. And then that's looked up and it works out, where did you fly out of? York? What were you flying? Yeah. And you look it up and there was a hurricane and we wouldn't have any clue on that at all.
No.
And stuff like that to me is good evidence. I've seen stuff, and I have seen stuff, but that's a personal thing, and I could say, and anybody could say, I've seen stuff. I think what's got me back into it recently, for some strange reason over lockdown, I've been seeing more stuff. I've been walking the night with somebody knocking on my door, to the point of where I've gone down and looked, and this, that, and other, and then it'll come again, and it's like, and I'll say to my wife, did you hear that? No.
You didn't hear that at all?
But then she has heard stuff, and then it's like...
She discounts it, maybe.
And discounts it, but it was so loud.
Yeah.
And it's just like unbelievable that, you can hear that sort of stuff, and that sort of thing goes on, to be honest. It just... and that's got me a little bit. And actually sort of seeing people stood there, and I've done that. A couple of times there's been a figure, and then you just can't. And I'm one of these. Am I dreaming? Am I half asleep? And I think if at the point you're thinking, am I half asleep? Am I dreaming? Then you're obviously not, because you're thinking it. You're thinking it, and it's and it's just strange, and it is. So are they asking me to come back? I don't know.
So what about table tipping, for example? Remember the schoolrooms when we did that massive table?
Yeah.
That for me was one of the best times that we shared.
Yeah. But it still doesn't look good on video, does it?
No, but unfortunately, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
I think one of the weirdest ones that I had, were Hebden Bridge, where my fingers felt like they were sinking into the table.
Yes.
And that, I've never had that before. That one was like the consistency of the wood had changed, and my fingers, it was like it was sponge, and they were actually sinking into the table itself. And that was just like a bizarre thing. And I think things like that are unpredictable, sort of, I think.
But you wouldn't say you're a psychic, would you? But you've had these things what are still going on to this day. And I have always felt that the evidence we get when you're involved is better than when you're away. So, and then the spirits also called you the Green Man. Different spirits who we were at different locations and didn't know what we'd had previously kept calling you the Green Man because you give out energy. We don't really know what the Green Man was, but you, as well as Lucy in our team, she and you both seem to ramp up the evidence we get. What do you think of that?
I don't know. I wouldn't say that I were.
No, you don't.
I'm not. Perhaps because of the stuff I saw when I was younger, and I were more of a believer then, or I knew I was seeing stuff rather than sort of. Perhaps I've always been open, and I think as kids grow up, they tend to close themselves off. Perhaps I didn't close myself off as much as other people do. I don't know, but I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say I was psychic.
I wouldn't say you're psychic, but they seem to always come to you. Whenever we do a board and we say where you stood, I could guarantee it was behind you. Because you know how they feed off the energy that we give out.
Well, perhaps it's just.
But you have no.
Perhaps it's just like certain people have different blood types. Certain people have, and it's just, and it just is as it is,
Yeah.
But I mean, it's but I think that's why I do see stuff, and it's almost like for the time that I've had time out a good 3 years, haven't I? At least I've taken time out, and I think for a good sort of 2.5 of that, I sort of shut myself off, and I wasn't interested, and I didn't. And then it's almost as if now I've got interested again, and I flicked a switch.
Yeah.
I'm seeing stuff again and hearing stuff again, and it's like
you've opened yourself.
Like I've tuned in.
Yeah.
Like I'd untuned the TV, and now I've tuned it back in. I'm seeing stuff again.
So you're not at the point of leaving recorders running or anything in the hope that you find something at home, or
I don't think I need to do it all.
yeah,
I don't think it might be an interesting thing to do, but I don't know. I don't think I need to do it at home, because I think that if they've come to interrupt me for some reason, then they've come to interrupt me, and it might be that I'm being led down a path somewhere, so that when we do an event at some point, then this is where I should be, because 2 years ago, 18 months ago, I wouldn't have thought about being sat here talking to you and getting back into all this again.
yeah,
And yet here I am buying cameras and sound recording equipment and K2 meters and stuff like that, and I'm like, well, I'm just getting back into it, aren't I? It's.
But you're going minimal.
I'm going minimal, and I think I'm going straight back. Yeah.
Because I thought on TV that I was saying the other day that when we're asking for Ouija board work or whatever, that we're always asking them to put their energy into that. However, on the TV, when they don't do the Ouija board, they see other things, that they hear things, because maybe that energy is spent elsewhere. What do you think of that?
I think that's a very good point. I think, like anything else, you've only got a certain amount of energy, haven't you? Even Mo Farah can't run 16 marathons all in one go, can he? You can only do one at a time, so you can't be in two places. Well, perhaps these people can be in two places at once, but I think that if they're concentrating on one thing, it's difficult for other things to happen. But I still think that things like manifestations, which is what we'd love to see, and stuff like that, I still think from what we've heard, did you hear a groan?
I did hear that groan.
They're a groan then. Yeah. But stuff like that we'd like to see. And against the rules, it's almost like they have some rules that it is against them to say.
So, what does the future hold? How are you thinking of approaching?
It's got to have to be around me. I'm not going to be dashing around and dropping everything like I did to go and do. If something fits, then it fits, and I'll do it.
Yeah.
I've got other things that are quite important in my life at the moment, because I've got a mum who's quite ill. That me and my brother are made carers for, so that takes a lot of my time up. And after lockdown and all this, my social life is quite important. I've found again, which is but I think if something fits, then I'll do it, and that's where we'll be. And I actually don't think that it needs to actually be anywhere overly special. I think anywhere with history, and I still believe in the moth theory, that if you sat there asking out and you're putting energy out, then they'll find you. Yeah.
It does seem to be the case, which brings me on to the fact that with us having at least two spirits following us around every location, what's your theory on that? Because we used to think that we'd go to a different floor of a place and find different characters.
We would.
They never followed us around.
We would. Perhaps they've become more, trusted.
Okay.
Perhaps in the sense of, when we first turned up and we've only got into this, that, I don't know who these guys are.
Sure,
but we're interested, but and then when they see you again and again and again and again, you do the same stuff, and you this, that, and the other, then there's a bit more of, well, we might have a bit of fun with these guys, or wherever they are, it might help break their monotony.
Yeah.
If there's monotony there, or but I've also got other things that I don't think time matters too much to them either. So it's strange. I don't know. I think it is. They've got to know you.
Yeah.
You're easier to track.
Yes, but the boundaries have gone down now. We used to do protection, open up. Now close and walk away. Now there's no walking away.
I stopped doing protection fairly.
Okay.
Before the end of what we.
Yeah.
I got to the point where I stopped doing protection.
Do you not believe in it, or you still want it?
Like, if it works, I don't want it, but I'm not sure I believed in it anyway.
Yeah.
And it's almost like saying, we want to talk to you, but no, I don't really.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And so even if it doesn't work and you're just putting that out, then are you putting them off?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, you used to say that before, if you build a protection and then you're asking them to come into the glass in the middle of a circle what's being protected, it's kind of, I've never really understood it, but I still do it as part of the process.
I wouldn't protect her. It's just something I wouldn't do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's just not what I do. And no.
So the theory about time and stuff also is something I'm interested in.
Well, I think they know more than they let on. They seem to know personal stuff. We've done stuff before where we've left numbers at people's houses, and they've gone and found the numbers, and so they've either been there when we've wrote them, or they've gone. And if you can go there and back like that, then how can time have any significance over you?
That brings to mind when we'd ask questions or start to ask a question, and it would answer it before we finished
exactly
the question.
It's like
so that's
they knew what we were going to ask, and it's like they know we were going to be there before we got there.
Yeah.
And so this is why I'm under the understanding now that I'm not got to rush to go to places. It's got to fit in with me, because they'll know where I am when I'm supposed to be there. And if they are leading me down the road by knocking on my door and waking me up again and doing all this, then I'll be where I need to be when I need to be there. And I've got a feeling that's what will happen. There'll be some event or somewhere that I'll come with you, and I won't be surprised if all hell broke loose.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's all really interesting. That's hopefully another 10 years of investigating.
Yeah, well, that's it.
See where we get. Well, thank you for your time.
No problem.
Right, well, so hopefully we'll have some more investigations together to record, and until the next episode, see everyone later.